Welcome to the Build a SaaS Product with Next.js 14 course. Throughout this program, you'll learn to query dynamic data in static Next.js pages, handle user subscriptions with Stripe, store and access application data in Supabase, and implement robust RAW-level security. By the end, you'll have the skills to build a static app with authentication, manage database changes, and handle payments for products and subscriptions. Let's dive into this exciting journey of creating a powerful SaaS product. Before we get started, make sure you have a Supabase account. If you don't have one yet, you can sign up using your GitHub account. Once signed in, add your organization, create an app, and set up a new table in Supabase. In your new table, create two columns, title and description, both of type text. After setting up the table structure, take the next step and populate it with a minimum of 2 records. At this point, it's crucial to enable select policies on your table to ensure data accessibility. Without this step, you might end up with an empty array by default when making requests from your Next.js app. To grant public access, you can add a policy using the following SQL command. Open the SQL editor and paste the command, replacing my table with the actual name of your table, to implement this policy. Now that we have our database set up and ready for connections from our Next.js app, let's install necessary packages and write some code. Ensure you have Node.js at least version 18 installed. Open VS Code, create a folder for your project, and begin running following commands in the terminal. You will then be prompted with the following questions to set up your project. Once answered, a new project will be created with the correct configuration. To start the server, run the following command in the terminal. The app should start a server, and you can access it by going to the localhost on the port 3000. Now, let's talk routing in version 13. A new app router was introduced, bringing enhancements like shared layouts, nested routing, and better handling of loading states and errors. It's important to note that with the latest update, the app router has shifted its operation to a new app directory. However, the traditional method, utilizing the pages directory, is still functional. This means you have sufficient time to gradually transition to the new approach at your own pace. Let's explore this shift in more detail. Notably, the app router takes precedence over the pages router, so avoid conflicting routes across directories to prevent build time errors. Components in the app directory default to React Server components, providing a performance boost. However, you can also use client components if needed. Next.js uses a file system-based router where folders define routes. Each folder represents a route segment mapped to a corresponding segment in the URL path. Let's continue with our Node.js app. First, we need to install Supabase packages for our Node.js application to communicate with Supabase. Install the necessary package by running this command. Let's begin a process of creating a Supabase client. To begin, we'll organize our project by creating a folder called Utils in the root directory of our app. This folder will house utility files, and it's good practice for keeping our code neat and organized. Now that we have our Utils folder, the next step is to create a file called Supabase.js inside this folder. Inside this file, we'll begin by importing the createClient function from the Supabase library. This function facilitates communication with our database. Our Supabase client creation snippet looks like this. Notice that we're using environment variables for our Supabase URL and API key. This is a secure way to store sensitive information, and it allows for easy configuration. To configure environment variables for your project, navigate to the root directory. If you don't already have one, create a new file named .env.local. Next, go to your Supabase project and access the API settings. Copy both the project URL and project API key. Now open the .env.local file in a text editor and input the copied details. Now, let's use our newly created Supabase client in our application. Open the page.js file located in the app directory. Next, let's create a function that will utilize the client to execute a select operation on our database. Add this code snippet to your file. This code defines an asynchronous function named getBooks. Within the function, there is an await keyword, indicating that it's designed to work with asynchronous operations. The code utilizes the Supabase client, which we previously created. The From Books part specifies that the operation will be performed on the Books table in the connected Supabase database. The Select method is used to retrieve data from the specified table. Since we are using the await keyword, it's essential to add the async keyword to the function declaration. Now, within our home function, we also need to add the async keyword. This is because we want to wait for the getBooks function to finish running before proceeding with the rest of the code. Adding the await keyword in front of the getBooks function call signifies that we are dealing with a promise. This ensures a smooth and ordered execution of asynchronous operations in our code. Now, it's time to test our code. Open the package.json file and navigate to the scripts section. The command we are interested in is called dev. To run this command in your terminal, simply type npm run dev. This command will initiate the development server, allowing you to preview and interact with your Next.js application. Once you've started the server, navigate to your local host on port 3000 using a web browser. In your terminal, you should observe the data retrieved from Supabase. This marks the conclusion of Part 1 in this series, and we'll proceed with Part 2 in the next session.